Good morning. I'm out in my garden and I wanted to film a garden tour, but I thought I'd do it a little bit different today. I've had company and I should have harvested yesterday, but I didn't. So I thought that I'd take you along as I harvested the vegetables from my garden and show you what that looks like in early August. So let's go ahead and start behind me with the patty pan squash. So they're looking happy and healthy. They need to be pruned. And I will do that. There are, you can tell that harvesting has gotten away from me. Patty pans are not supposed to be that big. I'm not gonna put that in my harvest basket. It will end up being too heavy. So you can see that the foliage is really close together, really compact. The leaves are competing with each other. And I will come in here and cut out about 1/4 of these leaves. As you can see down in here, there is another giant patty pan. And several that are reasonable size. That one can go till tomorrow. And needs to be watched and harvested every day because just like zucchini, they get big too fast. So, and speaking of zucchini, my zucchini, I would, not giant, but on the larger side. Normally I would also be pruning my zucchini, but these zucchini plants are not healthy and normal. They are still producing, so I am letting them be. This plant, that is all new growth since the heat wave in June, and it is still, when it puts on new growth, it is still letting the edges die. It's getting plenty of water. There's no reason it should be doing that. Its new growth is healthy, and then as soon as it puts it up and gets it of a certain size, it lets the edges get crispy like that. It is what it is. I do have other zucchini in the ground that I should get a harvest from before the end of our season. Progress on the loofah. This one is up about, I would say, 3 feet. I may not get a loofah, but I am learning, and I am being kind to myself because we have had strange growing conditions. But it has been hot the last few days. It's been 100 degrees here. It's going to be really hot for the next several days, and so I am hopeful that will get bigger and maybe set flower in the next couple of weeks. Now look at this beauty. That is a chocolate sunflower. This is the type of sunflower that puts out multiple heads, and so there will be a lot of them, but that's the first to bloom. The black beans here are not something we would harvest. If I was harvesting them for green beans, I would have my work cut out for me. There are a lot of them. But we're gonna leave them on there and let them develop into dried beans. Here's my little bird bath that it's nothing fancy, just a dish I put out that I fill up with water for the birds and leave sunflower seed heads for them, which they enjoy. This has all been eaten. And then the white parts are the seeds. That they're kind of a trick to get out. You have to really work at it. So they have some entertainment too. The sunflowers over on this side are looking great, and will give us some more fall sunflowers. Over here in the purple beans, these purple beans, I don't know if I will grow again. I am ready to harvest a few, but I never get very many. There are 16 plants here, they're on a soaker, and it is my theory that they are getting too much water, because at the other end of this bed are things that require water and need a lot of water, and so I'm never turning off. Uh-oh. You are not okay in here, friend. That is a cucumber beetle. I don't use any pesticides here, but if I see a cucumber beetle, they have to have a little help crossing over to the other side. So yeah, I planted these because green beans, sorry, don't make you sick. Green beans are known, or like you lose them, right? They're hard to see. So I planted purple ones thinking that it would make them easier to see, but giving up yield is not worth that. Look at that fennel. Look at that. I already harvested one of these. I will probably roast it tonight. So I will leave these in the ground to get a little bit bigger. The cucumber, these two cucumbers are two of the white Martini, the younger ones. It's been very hot, so they don't have a lot of blossoms on them, but they are miraculously still producing cucumbers, and they are not bitter. I will always grow this variety. I am so impressed with it. It's called White Martini, and it's from Territorial Seeds. The yard-long cucumbers have been also really great. I don't remember where I got the seeds from. I will see if I will look through my seeds and see if I can find them. Oh, they do come off pretty easily. I do not need clippers to take these off. Oh, it looks like even yard-long cucumbers can get away from me. Oh dear, it's under the trellis. My goodness, come here, friend. Look at that monster. That's chicken food. I'll feed that to the girls in a little while. Let's come around here and see what else we can find. The watermelon, I keep thinking, oh, it's almost done. Look how big it is. It looks like it's done. But it keeps getting bigger, and the tendril is not dry at all, and the stem is not dry at all. So I just leave it there. Eventually, I assume I will get to eat it. The noodle beans are growing up, and they're up above my head now, but they have not set flower yet. So we'll see how they do. There's another, I think I'll leave that on there for 2 more days. I'm constantly making decisions while I'm harvesting whether I should pick something slightly smaller than I would have preferred it, or whether I should leave it for a couple of days. Look at that. Look at that baby and that one. Oh, that one came off. It was just sitting on the leaf, but that one, the heat might be causing them a little distress. Look at this little friend. For a bumble. Where are you going? He's making a lot of noise. The eggplant is up more than 3 feet. My arm is out stretched straight. Lots of flowers on it. The bees are enjoying it, and lots of fruit on it. Let's see down lower what there is to harvest. This is the Japanese variety of eggplant. I don't know the specific variety. I feel like it had black in the name, but I can't remember. This is the first time I have grown Japanese style eggplant. Oh, there's one more. Well, that one doesn't want to come off, so I'm going to leave it there for a couple of days. And then there are lots more that are just, you know, they're not quite ready. So it is time to make my favorite eggplant dish, which is baba ganoush. We harvested beets while my friend was here. She really likes pickled beets, so we harvested the beets and then we forgot to pickle them. So that's on my list of things to do today. There's more beets over here. The bed is empty other than the flowers. I have brassicas, cabbages to go back in here. I want to amend the bed before I put them in, but also it is way too hot to be putting seedlings in the ground. So I need to wait until we have some slightly lower temperatures. The Malabar spinach is so much fun. It's now well up above my head, and I'm sure will just make this trellis look so beautiful. It already does, but before the end of the season. Let's head over and an update on the cucamelons, if anyone's watching or wondering. They're up to here and here, so about 18 inches. And all of that growth has been in the last, I don't know, couple of almost days, maybe the last week. I have heard that they are slow to start, and once they do, they take off. So I am waiting for them to take off. I feel like it could be any day now. These are the two more mature white Martini cucumbers. Because it's been so hot, there may not be as many to harvest, but there's one. There's still several small ones. Like I said, this cucumber will produce in the heat. Or at least it won't stop producing. This cucumber, these two are getting to the end of their life. I feel like they're definitely mature, and I'm seeing slightly fewer. There's some over there. I have to harvest them from that side. But also it could just be the heat. So they may still have quite a bit left to harvest in them. Over here in my tomatoes, something funny. I have never tried to train a cherry tomato up a trellis, or not a trellis, up a pole. But my varieties got mixed up, and that's exactly what I did. Look in there. These cherry tomatoes do not typically get this big. But because I didn't know, they got mixed up, and I pruned it and trained it up a pole. I'm getting extra large cherry tomatoes, and I'm just fine with that. There's a lot of them in here down near the bottom. We are also now getting plenty of full-size tomatoes. This is a pineapple. You can see it's blushing. Let's walk up and see if there are any ready to harvest. There's more. More cherry tomatoes down in there. This is not the most convenient place to plant a cherry tomato, but it is what it is. Let me grab some pruners. I like to prune my large tomatoes, or I like to harvest my large tomatoes with a pruner so I don't risk hurting the plant. Okay, I've grabbed some pruners and venture through here and see if we can find any that are responding to the last couple days of heat. I can also take some suckers off while I'm in here. Lots blushing. That one has some sun scald on it. That happens. Here we go. This is a variety Kellogg Breakfast. It is delicious. Oh, it is difficult to harvest with only one hand. Hold on. Let's see. Oh. Where did she go? Here we go. So those are my two varieties that have ripened, are pineapple and Kellogg Breakfast. The Brandywines and the German Pinks, I haven't had a ripe one yet, But this, I think, is a German pink. It is. But I have German pinks blushing, so it'll just be a few more days. And certainly in this heat, I can expect that. Surprisingly fewer tomatoes. I have harvested quite a few in the last little while. We've been eating full-size tomatoes for all week. But I did water them accidentally extra long yesterday, so they may be a little too comfortable and happy to ripen for me today. That's okay. We'll get there later this week. Happy to have the 2 Kellogg breakfasts and the abundance of cherry tomatoes. In this bed, the purple basil is looking beautiful. I have been eating it. Acting like it wants to flower, but we're not ready for you to flower yet, sweetie. This cucumber is looking great. It's very young. It hasn't set flower yet, but I imagine it will do that as soon as the heat settles down. The cranberry beans do have beans on them. I thought it would never happen. Whoops. And that is why they are called cranberry beans. They have that pink variegation. Isn't that pretty? I probably won't grow these again unless I get some instruction on how to do it better. They just are not happy here. They are, so, I mean, they're fine. Either that or they're just so slow growing that there are other things that I can grow in my garden that will just produce better for the space that I have for them. These two, there are 2 more sugar baby cucumbers here, so hopefully I'll get some more cucumbers. And my parsley, who is just an honorary member of the garden and gets to live there. I don't think I've ever harvested. She did get damage in the heat wave and has bounced back beautifully and looks beautiful. She just gets to live there and be happy. I am not a big fan of parsley. I don't eat it. Occasionally I harvest a little bit for a garnish, but I am more likely to garnish with basil or something else that I would prefer to eat. All right. Moving back towards the side, I have started to harvest the coriander. It is drying out, and I'm hanging it up to harvest this is cilantro that has gone to seed. Cilantro that has gone to seed creates coriander, which is what we call the seeds of the cilantro, and it is used as a spice. If you've never had coriander, it doesn't taste like cilantro. It is sweet and delightful. It's one of my favorite spices, and I am happy to have my cilantro go to seed. I also have some young cilantro. I've harvested a little off this. They're just little. They're just like 8 inches tall. They will get bigger. We'll give them some help by getting rid of this weed. I threw some old celery in there. Not old celery. It was harvested from another gardener's garden, and he gave it to me, and then he said, oh, here, would you like this? Throw it in a wet spot and it'll grow more celery. And it did. I chose not to grow celery this year. It takes a million years to harvest, but I had a space and I thought, well, why not? We'll throw it in there. So I do have a little bit of celery just starting to grow. More beans are growing up, these funny sunflowers that put off little extra side shoots. These were Mammoth Sunflowers. I've never had them do this before. Normally they do what this one does. So it's just a stalk. I've cut the head off to feed to the birds, and then I cut the leaves off. But this one, oh no, even this one, that's from the bean. So I removed the leaves so that the bean can climb it. Those two, though, decided to put off little side shoot flowers. So, and that's fine. The beans don't care. The beans are clear to the top. See, on that one, they're clear to the top. They don't care. And I can't remember if I put cranberry beans in there or something else. And I don't see any beans on there. They might be rattlesnake beans. I did have a package of those floating around. Let's pull. I do have a little bit of weeding to do in here. Oh, there's a bean right there on it. That is definitely not a cranberry bean. So I've put in some other type of bean. I think it is a rattlesnake bean. All right. Other than the kale, there isn't a lot to harvest in this bed right now, and I am harvesting kale and freezing it. We like to use it in smoothies and soups throughout the year. I do have some Swiss chard. It has bolted, but I can still harvest some of those leaves for that same thing. I have tomato cages right here because there are 3 tomatoes right here. There's one right there and one right there, and then this one is definitely being overrun by the tomatillo, but there is, this is a tomato plant. So the tomatillo is sort of encroaching. This is a volunteer. These 2 are sun golds that I just was really missing sun golds. I didn't grow them this year and I regretted that decision. So my friend Linda took some clippings from hers. I rooted them in water and put them in the ground, and they are growing and doing great. I also started for some from seed that I haven't put in the ground yet because they are it's been so hot. But as soon as it cools off a little bit, I'll put them in the ground. We'll have a race, which is going to go faster. The rooted prunings or the ones started from seed at the same time. It was within days of each other. So over here, I put in some Brussels sprouts there and there. A couple of them have withered in the heat. I had she's still okay. Let's give her some room. Get a luxury cap come up on top, but actually it might have been giving her some protection. So I've got, it looks like, of the 5 I planted, 4 Brussels sprouts are still doing okay. And then I wanted to show you these peppers. This is how I've always grown peppers before. Plenty of room, something like you would grow tomatoes, giving them their space. These are Anaheims. That one has got sun scald on it. I did not plant them close together or in pairs. I tried growing them in pairs for the first time last year, and that led me to decide to grow them high density. So as you can see, they do have peppers on them, not a lot. I was always disappointed. Even in this Anaheim only has maybe 10 peppers on it. That one has fewer. And then come over here to my pepper bed, and you can just see a huge difference. So these in the front are, I mean, they're covered in peppers. There's just so many peppers on each plant. I'm harvesting a couple of pounds every couple of days. Italian sweets go wrinkly if you let them get like fully ripe. I don't mind that. I'm going to cook or freeze them very quickly. You can see there are a lot of peppers on these plants. They're significantly taller than the ones in the other bed. The difference is they're growing all squished together. These are the orange sweeties. Orange sweeties. They are also just full of peppers. There are so many. They are just starting to ripen. I've harvested a handful. It looks like there's a ripe one down right there. Oh, not quite. They do take a minute. Oh, come on. So it's not quite ready. It's green on the other side still. It'll be ready tomorrow. And on this side, this whole bed is Italian sweets. This bed is the ones that my dogs did a lot of damage to, and it is still, even with that struggle, is producing so many peppers. I am delighted, and will certainly continue to in the future grow peppers this way. Back over in the main garden, the purslane has gotten there's a potato plant growing in this, but this purslane is a weed, and it's one of my favorite things to eat. I wait for it to pop up in my garden every year. It's now big enough to eat, and I am enjoying it regularly. It has a little bit of a citrusy flavor and a really nice texture, very crunchy. I really enjoy it. Over here I've put some holy basil starts in. I had 3 of them in here. I put them in very small. One of them survived, the largest ones. I have some more where my seedlings are, and so I'll replace the 2 that didn't make it in the heat. And over here I've put in some, you probably can't see them on the camera, but some kohlrabi starts, and it looks like I've lost a few of those in the heat, but I have more. That's why I plant so many. And I will replace the ones that are struggling. All right, when I put my camera down and got serious about harvesting, I found quite a bit more. It's a job that requires 2 hands. So quite a few peppers. Those are the first cucumbers I harvested. This is what I found when I put my camera down. There were a lot more hiding in there. And this is a pretty typical harvest for a day. I do this 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. I did find some more tomatoes, and look at this tomato. This is for sure the biggest one I've had so far this year. I'll go inside and weigh it and throw the weight up here on the screen. Variety pineapple. Isn't she beautiful? Last few things in the garden. The winter squash are doing great. They just started putting out flowers, and gratefully are starting to cover their bed, so I can stop worrying about the grass and the bindweed as much. These 3 beds right here are new, brand new this year. Bindweed is something that I struggle with everywhere. My yard is infested with it. I have ripped out an entire garden because of it. I have learned to control it somewhat, not totally. You can see this bed, I sowed zucchini in it, and it looks like a squirrel has come and removed. This one had more bush beans in it. I keep waiting for them to come up. In the meantime, all of this green in here is all bindweed. It is very easy to pull, but it is very tenacious. It grows very fast. If you don't pull it, it will strangle out whatever you're growing. However, it does need sunlight. So squash, for instance, will grow with it because it can restrain it enough that I don't need to pull it except for at the edges. Beds like this, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. So this hasn't been weeded in not that long, 10 days maybe. That's what the bindweed looks like. The motherwort, this plant right here is motherwort, and she was growing there, and I decided to leave her there, see how she did with the squash. I just wanted to show you that not everything always works out exactly the way you want. This bed, which is also a new bed, had beans in it. I don't see any that have germinated. There were probably 100 seeds planted in there. I am guessing that a squirrel or a bird has come and methodically removed them for me. How thoughtful. And that's just part of gardening. I will wait a few more days because of the heat. Heat makes germination difficult. Plants don't like to germinate in the heat. So I'll wait a bit longer, but I can see like disturbed soil in both beds. So I'm pretty sure that I am missing at least some of my seeds. That's okay. That's just part of gardening, and you just you just say, okay. I still have, we are in August. I still have half of August, all of September, and probably half of October or even more before my first frost. I have plenty of time to put more seeds in the ground, or I could decide to put brassicas in this bed. Maybe cabbage outcompetes bindweed very well. One of the beauties of a no-dig garden system is that next year I will recompost this and it will be better. The bindweed will be weaker, and that continues on and on until I have really healthy beds like the ones in my main garden that I rarely have weeds in. But establishing the new beds can take time. This is also a brand new bed. You can see all this white flower is all bindweed, and it grows very fast. I have weed eated it. I have pulled it out. One of the reasons that I like to grow squash in newly established beds is because they will outcompete the bindweed. The blackberries are another story. I will have to clip those out. So this is the last wild area of our property. This had cottonwood trees. All of these shoots are all cottonwood tree shoots. This whole thing was covered in full-size mature cottonwood trees. There were some still here even in January of this year. We cut the last of them down. I couldn't stand where I'm standing when we first bought this property. It was a wild forested jungle of blackberries and cottonwood. So I remind myself that I can allow this space to be wild. I have cut it down many times, and until I sheet mulch it properly and plant something on it, the earth will fill it up with things that I maybe don't want it to. But that's okay. That's okay for right now. It's not ugly. It's green, and as long as I, manage it at the edges of my garden, I'm fine. The same goes for this area of our garden. This entire area out far past the grass, we could not see this fence until last spring. It was covered with a blackberry bramble up 15 feet on both sides. And over the course of several years, we've hacked away at it. And last summer, we made the final push to get rid of them. You can see at the base, we're still constantly pulling out blackberry shoots, but we put the blueberries in. We sheet mulched. The cardboard that you see is the third sheet mulching, and we will just continue to do that until these beds are improve and are what we want. And that's just how nature works, and things grow really well in the Pacific Northwest. That's great for us as gardeners. But it also means that things that we maybe don't want in our garden grow really well as well. That is just fine. John Henry's pumpkins are doing great. There are multiple big pumpkins already the size of a basketball. And then some smaller ones over there by the beehive. And he will be making the decision as to whether he wants to clip some of them off or let them grow to concentrate growth to one big one, or let them mature as they are. Chickens make gardening easier. They've all come, I didn't get it on camera, but as soon as I approach, they come running up. They can see I'm holding a giant cucumber and they want it. So much like I would for my children, I break it up so that one chicken doesn't get everything. Oh, ox. And I don't feel bad about letting a cucumber or a squash get away from me, because my chickens turn it into eggs. You're walking with me and pulling the produce from the garden today. I'll talk to you next time.